This is the most beginner-friendly fermentation pet that you will ever make. It's called a ginger bug, and you can use it to make fermented sodas. It's actually the starter that we use for drinks like ginger beer. And all you need are 3 ingredients: ginger, sugar, and water. This is my ginger bug. His name is Kevin. And this is a ginger beer with citron and lime that we made just a couple days ago. That's so good. But I'm getting off track. You didn't come here to watch me drink soda. You came here to learn how to make it, so let's go. You don't need a kitchen scale to do this, but it can be helpful at the start. So if you have one, grab it. I'm gonna get a little dish, grab a grater. I've actually already grated some ginger today, so that's why it's dirty. And some organic, non-irradiated ginger. And we're just gonna start grating. You don't need a lot, maybe a tablespoon. Now I'm gonna add like 7 grams of sugar, about 7 grams of filtered water. Now you're gonna grab a clean mason jar and just put all of your ingredients in there. The only reason I used this bowl was just so that it would be easier for me to grate into. Then you're gonna cover it with a breathable lid and leave it alone for 24 hours. You don't need a cute little bonnet. I make these for all of my ferments. You can literally use like a paper towel and a rubber band. It doesn't matter, it just has to breathe. And the reason it has to breathe is because this is what is known as an aerobic ferment. So what we've done is we've taken the wild yeast that's on the skin of this ginger, we've given it a food source with the sugar, and then we've suspended it in a liquid. And what's going to happen is that this wild yeast is going to eat that sugar and it's going to turn it into carbon dioxide and a little bit of alcohol. Whenever you hear carbon dioxide, I want you to think bubbles, because that's what happens. Carbon dioxide is yeast farts, and we want yeast farts to make bubbly soda. So for the next 5 or so days, I want you to do exactly what I just did. Take a small amount of ginger, a small amount of sugar, and a small amount of water, all in equal parts, by weight or by volume, it doesn't matter, and add them to this jar. And eventually, you're gonna get something that bubbles like this. Once you get to that bubbly stage, you usually only have to feed it like once a week or so, but there are a few pitfalls that you should watch out for. The first is that people will make a ginger bug and they'll notice that it seems really thick and slimy and it doesn't get bubbly. That is usually because of contamination from a bacteria called Pediococcus. It's technically harmless, but it doesn't make good ginger beer. So if that happens to you, you'll want to get rid of this and start over. The second thing that some people report is that their ginger bug just never gets bubbly. And there are a couple of things that you can do to save it. First is to make sure that you're using organic, non-irradiated ginger, because that could prevent you from having enough active yeast to get things started. You can try saving it with better ginger at that point. But what almost always works and is gonna work faster is gonna be just adding a little bit of commercial brewer's yeast. This is just a basic white wine yeast called Premier Blanc by Red Star. I think it costs 99 cents a packet. You can get it at most brewing stores. It's gonna be in the refrigerated section. So the reason that I choose a yeast like this is because it's super active and it works really quickly, but it's also very flavor neutral. So it's not going to affect the taste of your ginger bug. And as long as you continue adding sugar, ginger, and water, it's not gonna turn into wine. You only need a small pinch of this. You can just open it, take a little pinch, sprinkle it on top, kind of swirl it in, and then fold this up and put it back in the fridge. So after you have an active bug, how do you turn that into soda? It's actually really easy. The reason that we use ginger in our starter is because it ferments really easily and aggressively. It also produces a ferment that's pretty flavor neutral. You'll notice that like the basic kombucha flavor is usually ginger for that reason. So you don't just have to make ginger beer, you can make all kinds of sodas. This is a soda I made from cherry juice. So all I did to make this was take like a tablespoon of the liquid from my ginger bug, pop it in here, and then pour fruit juice on top. It's literally that easy. To make sodas that don't use fruit juice, you want to usually use some kind of a simple syrup. To make my citron lime ginger beer, all that I did was make a citron lime ginger simple syrup. I then put about half a cup of that into this bottle. Then I topped it off with water and put in about a tablespoon of ginger bug liquid. Now you might be thinking, that sounds like way too much sugar. But it's not, and there's a reason for that. Remember how I told you that this is an aerobic ferment? We want the air to get to it. So it's producing carbon dioxide, like we can see bubbles in here, but I wouldn't drink this. It's not like a soda. And the reason it's not like a soda is because that carbon dioxide doesn't have a way to build up in this aerobic environment. So in order to get that soda to actually be fizzy, we have to do an anaerobic step. It's sometimes called the second fermentation. And that's just where we let the starter that we've created here culture our liquid of choice.
Under pressure!
So by adding sugar, whether it comes from fruit juice or from a simple syrup, we are giving the culture that we've created here something to eat. So a lot of that sugar is actually not going to be something that you ingest, it's something that you're feeding your yeast. A warm environment will also make it go faster. Usually this takes about 2 to 3 days in my house. I keep my house at about 62 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter, but I have had a bottle of soda be ready to drink within like 9 hours before in the summer. At least once a day, you're gonna wanna go to all of your bottles that are currently fermenting, and you're gonna want to burp them. And that just means that you're letting some of the carbon dioxide that's building up go out somewhere. Because if you don't do that, your bottle could explode. You always want to use bottles that are carbonation rated that have a swing top. Alternatively, you can recycle plastic 2 liters because they are also carbonation rated. You can get swing top bottles at brewing supply stores, but you can also sometimes find them in grocery stores just containing other things. I will sometimes go to Aldi and buy their French lemonade, which comes in a carbonation rated swing top bottle. They're like $3, and then you get lemonade and a bottle that you can reuse over and over again. So it's a pretty good deal. When you've reached your desired fizziness level, put your soda in the fridge. This will slow the fermentation down so you don't have to keep burping it. A lot of people ask me about alternative sugars. You can do something like this with honey, although I find that it doesn't work quite as well. And if you're using a sugar alternative like monk fruit or stevia or xylitol, it's just not gonna work at all because the yeast don't eat those things. Now, as far as the conditions of your home, if your home is warm, this process will be faster. If your home is cold, it will be slower. Because I forage, I make a lot of wild fruit juices, and my ginger bug is perfect for turning those into sodas. Because life's just more fun when it's a little fizzy. And when you do it yourself, you get to control what goes into it. So if you want to try flavors that you can't find in the store, or you just need to limit certain ingredients in your diet, then making your own sodas can be a really great way to have your cake and drink it too. I hope that I have successfully influenced you into becoming my fermentation friend. And remember, the pressure builds up really quick on these things. So if you don't want to Google how to clean your ceiling on a Tuesday, you might want to open them outside. Do as I say, not as I do. Which starter do you want to learn about next?